Hello, my name is Nicholas Barty, and I'm a senior studying technical and applied studies, and today I'll be presenting a research video presentation for task 3210. On the agenda today, I'll be talking about the impact of research on society, the research process itself, my own personal model, and what I learned from this experience. So, research is defined as a systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Throughout history, scientists, engineers, and other professionals have always found some component or other aspect of something to investigate. Whether it's physical or intangible, they found a way to break it down to its base components so that way they can better understand it. And if they haven't done it yet, through research, they do it. Research has fueled society. It's fueled the constant innovation of new technologies and discoveries within the separate sciences. Research has shaped the way that we interact with not only each other, but the world around us. The research process, this process is the process of conducting actual research, and it contains a bunch of different steps. Some of those being finding a topic of interest, reviewing any pertinent literature, developing different frameworks, the developing of the research question, hypothesis, research design, data collection, synthesis, analysis, and drawing conclusions based on the information gathered. There are two general types of research, non-experimental and experimental. Non-experimental types of research contain historical, descriptive, correlational, and qualitative models, and the experimental models are quasi-experimental and experimental. The historical model concerns examining past events. The descriptive model concerns seeing things as they are, describing things as they are. The correlational model focuses on identifying correlations or relationships between different variables, and the qualitative model focuses on examining outcomes but in a social context. The quasi-experimental, you can think of it as an experiment with a control group and varying variables, and an experimental model is a randomized model. So there are typically no control groups inside of those. So when proposing and conducting the preliminary research for this class, I examined the different models and chose one that best fit my research question. And my research question was, how does the prolonged use of social media technology affect the social aptitude of consumers, specifically those who consume these technologies in excessive amounts? I felt like the best method for me was the non-experimental qualitative model. And I say that because I was interested in knowing whether or not excessive social media use had a cause and effect relationship with the social aptitude of its users, specifically those who consume media in excessive amounts. The qualitative model, like I said, it examines the social context of your research and or the outcomes in a social context. And so when dealing with social media and how you're interacting with people, specifically the social aptitude of face-to-face interactions, I figured that the qualitative non-experimental qualitative model was the best for me, especially with the limited resources and not conducting a full round of research. So what I learned from this experience is that from conducting that preliminary research is through the understanding of how we conduct research, you begin to understand the driving forces behind that research. For me, I believe that the driving factors or driving forces behind research are consumerism and the desire for knowledge. These are the two biggest factors to me, just because people always want newer, better, more compact technologies, and these companies, they have to deliver. They still have to maintain and turn a profit because when things are considered old, they're cast to the side. And so in order to stay at the forefront of your market or what have you, people conduct research to make sure that those that they're at the forefront. And that just doesn't translate to technology. That translates to pretty much everything because there's a lot of statistics and things like that inside of research, and that can be translated into any market across any industry. And the desire for knowledge, pretty simple, I think. Just when someone has a question that they can't find an answer to, especially if you have a researcher's mind, you're going to go and you're going to research it. You're going to figure out what's been done in that specific area, what hasn't been done, and you're going to form a research question, figure out a hypothesis, make some type of assumption, and then test it. So I would like to say thank you. This is a very valuable experience for me, conducting research specifically on these social media technologies and how they affect their users. It was pretty interesting to me to see how social media affects its users, and I was able to look at some studies that showed a correlation, or that showed how a cause and effect relationship between social media and or social media usage, excessive social media usage, and a lack of social advocacy. So thank you once again, and you have a good day.